organized by AlAzharLawCollege, Law College, titled Legal Research and Pedagogy in Changing Era. Now we have an eminent resource person, Dr. R. Haritha Devi, Professor, Director of Research, Publication and Academic Affairs, Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, Chennai. And she is taking a topic related to tools, collection, tools, analysis of data in legal research. Welcome you, ma'am, to the International Faculty Development Program conducting by AlAzharLawCollege, Law College, Thodupuzha. And once again, I'm welcoming all faculty members, research scholars, professionals, and other participants to this International Faculty Development Program. And thank you. Over to you, Surya.
Thank you, Shiba ma'am. I am honored to introduce Dr. R. Haritha Devi to all of you. Dr. Haritha Devi is a professor, Director of Research Publications and Academic Affairs, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, Chennai. She was graduated from Government Law College, Trichy, and did her post-graduation from the School of Legal Studies, Cochin University of Science and Technology, and doctorate in law on reproductive rights of women from the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, Chennai. She coordinated national and international events, collaborating with government bodies, including Competition Commission of India and Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board. She has a total of 35 publications, including one book as author and 5 volumes as editor, including a handbook on Consumer Protection Act 2019 and product liability and a FAQ published by Dr. Ambedkar Law University in association with the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, New Delhi. She was the editor of 4 journals, including Allahabad Law University Journal, ISLR, the Journal of Department of Environmental Law, and Tamil Law Journal published by Dr. Ambedkar Law University. She served as a project manager for 5 years at Sri A.K. Venkata Subramaniam Chair of Excellence on Consumer Law Jurisprudence, a project funded by the Department of Consumer Affairs, New Delhi. On behalf of AlAzharLawCollege, Law College, I welcome Haritha Madam to this session.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for that introduction, Surya. And at the outset, let me thank Shiba Varghese ma'am, because she's the one through which I'm knowing your college itself, because she called me and everything through phone, I think we got introduced. Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. And I also heard that Bismi ma'am has referred me. I think I must share, thank her also, because I always admire her, what she teaches. I think yesterday also, that's why I attended the session of getting a prelude to what I should talk today. And as mentioned, I attended all the sessions from yesterday. In fact, I'm also attending, in fact, wherein I could get the introduction part from Bismi ma'am of what is legal research. And today morning from ma'am saying, I mean, it was a very good introduction for me to proceed with collection of data. I would say, my intention to talk to you, or my job of talking to you today, is on the topic which is given to me as collection of data, tools, uses, and analysis of data. In fact, both these are 2 different topics. It could have been a better one. My humble suggestion is that collection of data and analysis of data is itself 2 wider topics, in fact. But okay, with a small background, let me share my screen also. I think it's visible.
Yes,
I hope.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
1 second. Yeah. I hope it's visible. Yeah. So collection, use, tools, and analysis of data. That's the topic which is given to me. And it is a pleasure talking to research scholars, teachers, and I'm also finding one of my classmates, I think Jacob sir. I could see him in video. I don't know I mean, whether he's attending. Thank you. So when it comes to data, the most important thing to remember is whenever we speak to a research scholar, say maybe in his 2 years after registering for PhD, after 2 years, if you ask a research scholar, how is it? How is research going? If you ask, the reply would be, I'm collecting data. Correct? I think we all who have done PhD have experienced. We all have answered like that. Yes, sir, I'm collecting data. Yes, fine. If you ask even a person who's doing LLM dissertation, how is it going? Yeah, I'm collecting data. I'll finish within 1 month. Yeah. So there is no end to what we call as collecting data. We'll start somewhere. We will think we'll collect everything. Then we will start writing. Then finally, when it is in a hurry, say maybe last 6 months, last 3 months, last 1 month, like this, when it comes, we will decide in a dissertation, sometimes in PhD also, last 6 months, we will decide, no, whatever collected, let it be there. Let us start writing. Something we'll start writing. And that is how we end up with the thesis. I am taking myself as an example. All of us did this. Most of us. So there is no starting point or end point to collection data, collect data. So today's objective of this talk would be, I would like to go in a process where what are all the methods or techniques that are available for collection of data and analysis of data in the end. So that is how I will be proceeding. And before that, I will be mostly, or maybe examples, maybe otherwise, but otherwise concentrating on legal research, collection of data in legal research. Because when it comes to the tools that are available for collection of data, it's used by all, whether it be, you all might have heard questionnaire method, interview method, that method, this method, everybody would be using it. But how it is to be used in a legal research, that would be my standpoint. So that is how I will be proceeding further. So first thing, before going to collection of data, where does this collection of data stand in a research? That we will see first. So in every research, there is some steps followed. I think morning ma'am also was telling it very clearly how to proceed further, right? In short, I will be telling that first you identify the problem or define the research problem. You read the available literature, already available literature on the topic, and then you are formulating your research questions, your hypothesis. These are all separate topics in legal research, in fact. Each one is a topic. And then you create a research design. And then in that design, you will be telling how I am going to collect the data with the help of various research tools. Then processing of the data collected, analysis and interpretation of the data, and finally, it is report writing. So this is how, if the research proceeds like this, it's my humble opinion that if a research scholar or a researcher takes his step like this, I think he will be able to complete on time. Many times, we are not able to complete on time, or finally, when we complete, we are not satisfied with what we wrote, or it is somewhere lacking, and sometimes dissertation itself, we are getting reduced marks, or we are not getting as expected, etc. happens because this research process is not followed by students generally. We find so many students, I think I'm taking examples from my university only, sometimes LLM students and all, they do everything, finally hypothesis they'll write, right? For the thing what they wrote, they are doing the hypothesis. It's not like that. In fact, if we define the problem properly, that is why I feel 50% of a research is getting completed if you have your problem clearly with you. Many a times, we are not getting that clarity, including myself, many times, even if it is writing an article. Even if it isn't writing an article, first decide what is your problem. What is your issue in hand? For that issue, we are going to find solution. So that is how we proceed. With that, when we read literature and collect literature, I think we will be collecting whatever is necessary. And with that literature only, we will go to framing a hypothesis or your research. And based on that, then how to proceed further. Actually, hypothesis is a separate topic. Already, I think I have discussed in many forums. If you are framing the hypothesis properly, then your work is getting very simplified and your tool for collecting data is also getting a clarity. What tool, which tool to apply? We have so many tools in front of us, but which to apply? Should I take? Everybody can't take an interview. Everybody can't take a questionnaire. We think nowadays after Google platforms have come, create a Google, sheet, send it to everybody, questionnaire, we'll get answers. From that we can do research. That's what we feel. But in all topics, it is not possible. Questionnaire may not be understandable to many of the people, right? So each one we will see later. But these tools, identifying the correct tool for collecting the data itself will simplify the process. Especially when it comes to legal research, there's always one step behind when compared to a social research. What? The quantitative data or the, applying that empirical research. But nowadays we find many of them are opting for empirical research. But generally legal researchers have a 1 minute setback. Should I do empirical? Why can't I finish it with doctrinal? That idea is always there in our mind. But to be correct, nowadays it's expected from many of the universities as well as forums, wherein they ask why you didn't do empirical. That's the first question asked in a Viva. So it's better to have an authenticated data. So collection of data with the help of various research tools must be taken up by a research scholar only after framing your research questions, your hypothesis, and before that, you should be having a clarity with respect to your research problem. So what is the starting point for collection of data? It is after creating the hypothesis or after having research questions in your hand. So that's my first view. Now proceeding further, legal research when it comes, already many people, they have spoken about why legal research. I would like to tell these points because for collecting data, you should have a clarity of why you are doing this research. Maybe it is for writing an article, maybe for LLM dissertation or for a PhD. First thing, three things I feel to sum up everything what I heard yesterday. To sum up, first thing, to contribute to existing knowledge of law. So there is a positive impact on the state of knowledge in a particular discipline. So already there is some law, but more is needed. Or there is no law, so we have to make a law. It can be like that also. Or already there is the law, but we find many difficulties in implementing the law. It can be the reason. See, in spite of law for 25 years, nothing happened in this field, we feel. So that also can be the reason for why we are taking up this legal research. Second thing, policy making. In places where there is no law, like it can be anything. Morning ma'am was telling about Surrogacy. Surrogacy Act came only in 2021. Till then, there was no law. If you take our working women, that is sexual harassment of women in working places. Vishaka case, there was no law. Only after that it came. So informed policy making, which ultimately reflects in the law and decision making. That also can be the reason why we are doing a legal research. But in this place, we have to understand there is no background for us. The difficulties are there, but there is no law. Maybe the researcher has to say that this should be the law. This is how we have to draft. Or it can be to address a specific issue or question. For example, drugs abuse in the campus. So here what the researcher is trying to do is, it's an action research. He has to diagnose a specific issue and he has also to attempt to resolve it or solve it, thereby to improve the practice in some way. Say we have Dowry Prohibition Act. Then why still dowry deaths are happening? Yes, It's a very valid question which anybody would ask. We have so many laws for, say, Motor Vehicles Act. But still, are we able to reduce the number of accidents, or are we able to make everybody follow the traffic rules? Even that is not happening. Why? Where is the lacking? What is happening? So we are actually diagnosing into an issue that's happening. Here, actually, in this type of research, action research, probably you will need definitely empirical. You can't go for sitting in the library and say that, no, everything is wrong. Why it is wrong? You ask a question and you are proceeding further. So in all these three types, whether it be to contribute to the existing knowledge of law, or you are making a new law itself, lacunae, or not even lacunae, it's completely dead. There is no law in that thing. So we are trying to make it. Or you ask a specific question, this issue is happening in the society, how to rectify it. It can be like that also. So in all these three situations, data collection should be in that fashion. So we have to, every researcher, before collecting data, should keep in mind what is his purpose of research. So you should never compare it with anybody else, how they are collecting data, right? So if I am collecting data only to find out, say, the lacunae in this particular legislation, right? Or role of some Supreme Court in dealing with this particular topic. Just like that, I'm just writing an article or something. That's all my idea is to find out how Supreme Court has dealt with this particular issue in all these years. Maybe from, I'm taking a particular year, 10 years, 2010 to 2020. This is my idea, suppose. Then I am going to read only the judgments given by the Supreme Court. So my data here would be judgments given by the Supreme Court in this particular number of years, say 10 years, on that particular topic. My data need not be anything else. Of course, for a background study, I need to study something like how this law came, what is this, that is different. But my main data would be the number of judgments given by the Supreme Court, how many judgments it gave like this, how many judgments it gave. So that must be my data. But sometimes my friend, somebody else who is doing a research on the same topic, maybe, say we'll take dowry prohibition itself as an example. Same topic. I am on only the judgments of the Supreme Court, but somebody else would take up this law itself is not okay. There's no use. So they want to identify in practice how Dowry Prohibition Act is implemented for the past 10 years. Maybe that is their idea, right? In a decade, Dowry Prohibition Act for the past 1 decade. That is their research. In that time, what will happen? They have to collect data. Maybe they have to visit courts or visit police stations. Place has to be identified, and they also have to collect, their data would be how many cases are filed under this act, how many cases conviction is happening in these cases, how many cases acquittal is happening in these cases, why acquittal, why conviction, what is lacking for the unable to prove this case as dowry prohibition or dowry death or whatever, right? So the tell you that collection of data, even if it is the same topic, it is different for different researchers. So we can never say this method is correct, this tool is correct, he is following, so I will also follow. Everybody take empirical data, need not be. No. So when to take empirical data, why to take empirical data, that too, how to collect. Interview method, is a questionnaire method, survey method, like so many methods are there, tools are there. But whether we have to adopt everything, whether all these tools are going to be useful to us, this itself has to be identified based on what topic did we take. Same topic. I told dowry prohibition for both the people, but still it is different. So why legal research? The purpose of why I am doing this research. What is my research problem? That clarity, if you get, then collection of data will be very easy. Identifying the right tool will be Very easy. Am I audible? Oh, proceeding. Am I audible so far? Any?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
anything, please do inform.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, you're audible.
Yes. So legal research, when it comes, legal research, we have to take it. It does not sit in a vacuum. Always we have to remember, instead, legal research operates in a complex social context. That is why they say pure legal research and socio-legal research. Identifying this two itself is very big difficulty. One of our professor used to tell, pure legal research and all, nobody is actually doing. We are all doing topics where we are leading to socio-legal research only. When I say pure legal research, like we tell jurisprudentially, how it has been like that, so very, without even touching upon the society, without even seeing how it is going to be implemented like that. I think we are not doing like that. Theories are developed, so such researchers are called pure legal researchers. Always we have to remember, legal research does not sit in a vacuum. It is operating in a society, that too a complex social context, right? So it becomes essential for ascertainment of law. What is the law? How it has to be? So that itself, we need legal research. And to point out ambiguities and weaknesses of law, as I said earlier, already there is a law, so it is not implemented properly or there is weakness. To critically examine the laws in order to ensure coherence, critically evaluating the law, right? Whether this section is correct. Sometimes one section they take and just go on. Writing an article and all is just one section, right? Critically evaluating that section. How far it has been implemented. How many judgments have come. How many, Article 21 and all, if you take, you can write, even now we can write another 10 theses on Article 21. Correct. So it's such a big, one single article, how it has been interrupted or it is interpreted in such a way. And to consistency and stability of law and it is underlying policy. So to bring about stability, like this is what, finally this has to be the law or this is how we have to implement it. Because in some judgments we see, as time goes, there will be multiple like views. The same Supreme Court, in the beginning they would have told like this, then after 10 years, the judgment would be something like this. Liberally interpreted, strictly interpreted, and finally they will come to a conclusion, oh no, this is what is like that. Right to privacy judgment and all came latest, wherein right to privacy judgments are already there before. But now we have come to a stabilized place where, yes, this is what like that. So every judgment is actually a legal research, right? Every advocate, as morning ma'am was telling, every advocate is actually doing a research only to bring about his view. So to conduct a social audit of the law, as I said, the law is there, but in spite of the law, for the past 10 years, the crimes are increasing. Why? Dowry deaths are increasing. Why? So to conduct a social audit also, we need legal research and to suggest reforms in law. All these things are done for that only. Law has to keep up with the changing times. What all happens, but technological advancements are coming in the society every day. Medical advancements are coming in the society every day. So keeping up with the pace, sometimes we need law. So legal research is conducted to suggest reforms according to the changing times also. These purposes we have to always keep in mind as a legal researcher, because nowadays I find it is being confused with social research. Like they have too much of collecting data. If you speak to a sociologist or if you speak to a economics, like a person with economics, like how did they do research? What are they trying to prove? So that place we have to get clarification as to what legal research is, why legal research is done, right? I'm not against empirical research at all. Legal research also needs empirical, but I found in my experience for the past some 2-3 PhD vivas when I was conducting, I could find they have done a wonderful empirical study. One student has done a very good empirical study, but Finally, when it was presented as after evaluation thesis, PhD Viva, the question that was asked is, is this a legal research? We were astonished because a 300-page thesis, which is so many graphs, that pie diagram, chart, etc., with all the data when she presented. Finally, the question asked this is more of sociological aspect. There is no law in this. That was the reply which we got, or the question which was asked by the external examiner. So always, we legal researchers have to get the clarification of what I am doing, because socio-legal research has a tendency of more going towards social, and we forget the law in this, right? So everything, take the examples which I told, Dowry Prohibition Act, child labor, or you take any aspect like that. A lawyer also can do that research. Sociologist also can do that research. Right? Any topic, many topics like that. Any topic, many of the topics, there is nothing called pure only law person can do this. Nobody else can do. No, they also can do. But they will stop in one place where they means I am talking about social researchers. They will be actually talking about how many child labor, I mean, how many people are there? What is the reason for this child labor? That's all. They will stop there, right? Maybe a person, a sociologist or an economist will tell poverty is the reason for child labor. These two variables are connected. There is a relationship between poverty and child labor. That's all. They will find data for it. They will clarify everything. They will present. It's over there. But if a legal researcher also does that, the question will come, so what? Where is the law in this? Like that. So we have to start from where social researchers stop. That's what I feel. It's my humble opinion that legal researchers start from where the social research stopped. So that thesis, that empirical data which say that poverty and child labor are connected, from there a legal researcher must pick up and say, okay, no child labor laws are there. Is it at least dealing with poverty? If a child is on a work or it is employed for the reason of poverty, is our law answering? We are punishing that person also. Maybe for food only that child is actually working. But law says no child labor, so we will take action. Is that right? So from there we pick up something, and legal researcher has to answer that question with the help of law. Which law, if you modify, this situation will change. Then we are bringing a change in the society. So this aspect of why legal research is to be done should be kept in our mind before collecting data. So that's my very important point, which I want to stress to all the legal researchers. So legal research process is performed between two common methods. I think you all know that, doctrinal and empirical method. Following any one method out of the two require two different sets of data. The way we collect itself will differ depending upon which method you have chosen. That's why in every thesis, what is your methodology? That has to be written very clearly in the first chapter itself. What is your methodology which you are following? And with that methodology only, your data will be evaluated. Overall, there's always, again, there's two views among very great professors that only doctrinal is good, only empirical is good. I would like to stand in between. My humble opinion is, it is not about whether doctrinal or empirical. It's what topic you took. If you take role of Supreme Court or say the critical evaluation of an act or something like that you took, you are doing a doctrinal study, nobody will ask. But if your title itself says implementation of Motor Vehicles Act in the state of Tamil Nadu, and then you did doctrinal, yes, you are failing there. So when you keep the title or when you are choosing the topic, you have to have a clarity as to whether you are going for doctrinal or empirical. Even recently, that situation also had arose. Somebody has given a title about implementation. The word implementation is in the title itself, but there was only. So the first question asked itself, how can you say that the law is not implemented properly without even taking a data? You are doing doctrinal and you are saying it is not implemented properly. How? So that question should not come. So there is, I don't think this is good, that is bad, nothing like that. Both are good. And even if you are doing an empirical study, out of the 6 or 7 chapters which you are writing as a thesis, only in one chapter you will be giving your empirical data. So automatically you have to write something from the library also. So little bit of data is required there also, which we collect in the library. So overall approach of research changes with individual method. Likewise, changing in techniques of data collection is also inevitable. There is no hard and fast rule. This is good, that is bad. Because I remember when one of our professors, I think it was a talk between 2 great professors, like one professor said, no, empirical, if you do only, it will be good, that, this and all. Then another professor, he was Department of International Law. So he asked, sir, in international law, how do you collect empirical data? I am doing role of UNO. You mean to say I'll go to every country and collect data and come back? No. So even with doctrinal, I can do that. Like, so he was telling that. So from there, I think I got that point as there is no hard and fast rule. Only doctrinal is good, empirical is good. But current trend is that empirical is actually expected and many are doing. It's so appreciable to see that many are doing socio-legal and they take empirical data also. But wherever, many places I find that people who do empirical in legal research do not know that distinction between legal and they go towards that social in many places. More of social and they are losing the track of law. That I find. Otherwise, I think both are good. So in this process, let us, already I told this, data. When it comes to data, when you are going to ascertain the law, that is, you are going to find out what is the law behind this, then your data will be provisions, statutes, etc. So what we call as primary data. A researcher needs to locate, analyze, and understand the judicial pronouncements also to find out how Supreme Court or the courts, high courts have dealt with certain issues. So the process involves an intense analysis of legal instruments and judicial pronouncements when you are ascertaining the law, right? So you have to read the provisions, already existing act or provisions, and you are going to find out there is a lacuna. I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So judicial pronouncements you are reading. Many times, again, another point is, we, in the name of collection of data, we find all the judgments available and we collect everything and keep. You can't write the judgments as it is. Many times we find paragraph from judgments quoted. No, that is not expected from a legal researcher. The judgment is like this. As a legal researcher, you have to question the judgment. As again, I would like to quote my professors who said, when I was studying LLM, first thing they advised is, till UG, you are saying Supreme Court held. That's all. Over. If we know 10 judgments, Supreme Court held, we'll get good marks. Our answer is very good. But in LLM, once you come to PG, you should ask why Supreme Court held like that. No question of Supreme Court held after that. So if it is PhD, then nothing to tell. You cannot say Supreme Court held, Supreme Court held, Supreme Court held. No, you can't do that. You have to analyze the judgments. You have to create a critical evaluation of the judgment. You need not agree with the judgment at all. I think as academicians, we are having that privilege of critically evaluating a judgment, right? So that has to be done. So your data will be, judgments, judicial pronouncements, provisions, statutes, but you have to critically evaluate it. Now, when you're highlighting the ambiguities and gaps in the law, then legislative intent has to be taken. That is where we legal researchers have to understand. Maybe we are talking about Section 4 of Competition Act. Somebody is doing a research in Competition Act 2002, Section 4, abuse of dominance. Okay. But while critically evaluating that section, as well as the judicial pronouncements, that is the judgments given by the Competition Commission of India regarding Section 4. That will be our data in our hand. But we have to read the objective of the legislation. So a law is not designed to address every contingency that might arise in the future. Yes, it's drafted. Maybe another 25 years, nothing happened. Fine, everything okay. Even 1872 Indian Contract Act, we are applying still today. Fine. It was drafted in such a way. Correct. But ambiguities may arise in the future, and there will be contingencies in the future where it has to be interpreted accordingly. So in that time, we have to read the objective of the legislation and read along with the section, and then only our analysis will be complete. Many times we forget about the object of the legislation itself. In Constitution, we say preamble like that. We have to read the preamble and what was our drafters, aim of this Constitution, and what did they achieve and which section is doing that. So like that, it has to go step by step. So provisions and statutes, anybody who's doing a legal research on any topic, please have the background of your own topic. That law, presently what is available, maybe Consumer Protection Act. Today, 2019 Act is there. That is your background. That you have to be thorough. You are not going to research the full legislation. I do agree. Nobody can critically evaluate the entire legislation and do a PhD. No. Maybe you have taken only one section. Still, you must have read that act in the whole to find out. Maybe you are saying that this section does not answer this. Maybe it is answered in another 15 sections. Right? So we have to read the entire act, the background of that act, the objective of that legislation, why this new act came like this. The legislative intent will be then only known, and then we read judicial pronouncements, we will get more clarity. Now coming to analysis of data. I'll be telling the tools, but before that, I would like to clarify that analysis of data is one of the most crucial tasks requiring knowledge to handle the data collected as per the project's predetermined research design. That's why I told in the beginning, you have a research design, and from there only you proceed with collection of data. So analysis is the last part. Collection is first. But once you collect the data, how to analyze it according to your hypothesis or your research objectives, for that you need proficient knowledge about the data which you collected. Here, one thing which I would like to tell is, nowadays, it's so handy that we prepare a questionnaire, circulate to somebody, please circulate to everybody and collect me the data and give. So we are not observing ourselves the data. Even if it is an interview method, there is a difference between the researcher going to the person and interviewing himself and sending somebody, right? There's some we see that's why I'm telling this. It's not a good habit. We send someone else to collect the data and bring, and then we will try to write something. I think that's not the right pattern, because nothing comes handy. Once you collect, you will know the responses from the people, what they said. For example, you are collecting feedback after the session. You put a questionnaire, you ask everybody, like, please give your feedback, right? You have to look into that feedback, right? And then only your analyzation about this session or any other session will be correct. Instead, we collect all the data, give it to a statistician. Now we have statisticians also for the help. They will do everything and give it to us. What happens is, we are not able to handle the data collected properly for our project. It's our project, our research problem. We would have had something else in our mind, but finally we would have landed up in something else. So that should not happen. So collection of data and analysis of data are two different things. In analysis of data, we need that proficient knowledge to handle the data collected. Somebody's data we cannot handle. So that we have to remind here. 1 second. One minute. Issue. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the data analysis is a process that involves the molded data being examined for interpretation to find out the relevant information, propose conclusions, and aid in decision making of research problems. Right? So that is data analysis. Data collection is the process of collecting and measuring the data on targeted variables through a thoroughly established system to evaluate outcomes by answering relevant questions. So you fix the variable. For that, finding out the relationship between these two variables, you are going and finding an empirical data, that is data collection. It can be empirical or it can be in the library, depending upon your title. But analysis is after that. Finally, you got data. Say maybe you collected responses from 100 people. Yes, fine. Out of 150 people have answered this, 20 people have answered this, 70 people, like this, you have some data in front of you. This is collection of data. Now you have to process the data. After that, you have to analyze. So in analyzation only, you come to a conclusion that, okay, rural population is answering like this. In rural background, this particular is like this. This urban people like this. So you come to a final analyzation whereby you have to match this with what you tried to find out. Maybe you didn't try to find out that answer. So that is why I'm saying your hypothesis should have a proper variable, and that variables, the relationship you are writing as hypothesis, and that hypothesis is now tested through your analysis. For that only we collect data. So the thing is, when it comes to analyzation, whether it is qualitative data or quantitative data, even if the data is sufficient, it will not serve any purpose unless it is carefully processed and scientifically analyzed and interpreted. Many times we see the graph, pie chart, then what, bar diagram, everything is there. So what? With that, what you are coming to tell, they don't write that. Every bar diagram or every pie chart or everything what you draw, because today a system or computer will do everything. You give it to a statistician, you will get a very good artwork. Fine. Pages will be filled. That is also fine. But with that pie chart and with that data, how did you conclude it? This clarity also is very, very important. So data collection and data analyzation is two different things, and that has to be done differently. Both are not one and the same. Fine. Now, elements of data collection when it comes, it's actually a very demanding job. As I told you, some 2 years, 3 years will pass without even our knowledge that we will be collecting data, right? What are the elements which we need? Perseverance. We see many students today, 1 month they will check. Somewhere they will go to library, they will see some Google search that this finished, over. Ma'am, there is no data for this. I'm changing my topic. They will go off. That's what they do. No, that is not an answer. For everything, there is materials here. And that too, after so many searches have come, you get thousands and thousands of material for every topic you search. It's only about perseverance of the person, the legal researcher. Second one, hard work. Definitely, it needs a lot of hard work to be put to collect data. Only thing, if you are not in an orderly fashion, your hard work will go in vain. So that is where I would like to mix this hard work with smart work. You, to the point, if you tick properly, I think it will be easy. So that smart work will come only when we are having a proper planning and patience. So these 4 points, I think I would like to all of you to remember that it is not an easy job. So we need perseverance, we need hard work, we need planning and patience for collection of data. Now, data collection is the process of gathering and measuring information on variables of interest in an established systematic fashion that enables one to answer the stated research questions, test hypotheses, and evaluate outcomes. Right? So in an orderly fashion, if you have the research questions, you are trying to answer that. Right? regardless of the field of study. Now, I would like to say, even if the social research or socio-legal research or pure legal research or whatever, the qualitative or quantitative or whatever, accurate data collection is essential to maintaining the integrity of the research. Yes, that's more important. Nowadays, the most difficult part a legal researcher or any researcher is facing is plagiarism test. This much percentage, that only 10%, only 5%, this, that, etc. So why this plagiarism we are getting affected, you know? We did not collect the required data which we had to collect. Right? Somewhere there and here we checked some 5 articles, we started writing. That is why we land up in plagiarism. We are not able to give the proper footnote because we didn't collect it properly. Right? And the goal for all data collection is to capture quality evidence, and then it translates to the rich and diverse analysis, and it allows to build convincing and credible answers to questions that have been posed. So we only have posed the research question. For that research question, if we want to get a proper answer, a credible answer, and an acceptable answer, either in the Viva or to the public, when somebody read, yes, I think this is correct. If they have to tell that, we should have quality evidence with us. It is not here and there Google search, because today students feel that only with Google search we can finish. That's what is felt here. Even in Google search, after Google search came, the most important problem is that everything will collect. Once we see an article, we download and keep in our system. How many of us read all the articles that have been downloaded by us? It's a big question to be answered ourselves, including me. Even I feel, oh my God, I took so much of materials, but did I read all this? There and here we will read. Even and one article completely, no patience to read. The first paragraph, in between little conclusion part, what they are coming to tell, we'll read off and we'll just write. So that habit has come because of the too much of materials that is available in this world today. Like if you click, you get thousands, right? Both the selection of appropriate data collection instruments and clearly delineated instructions for their correct use will reduce the likelihood of errors occurring. So if we have to reduce or minimize the errors in our conclusions, it's better to have the correct instruments, the correct tool and its uses. If we know that, that is my topic, collection, tools, uses they have given. So how to use each tool, if we know, then I think we will get a proper result. So steps for data collection, as I already told this, first, define the aim of your research. Second, choose your data collection method. Third, plan your data collection. Fourth, operationalization, and then you start collecting data. We have heard operational, defining your research problem, data collection, that all we know. Operationalization, I think in some researches they will give operational definition, they give, right? See, there are so many definitions for a particular term, there may be, but in your research, what you are going to do. Because now, say dowry death itself, we'll take as an example. Is there any definition for dowry death? We have to first think whether Act has defined anything. Maybe a woman met with death because of various other factors also. But outside, when we look, it will appear to be dowry death. Maybe she's married, say 2 years. There was an incident of dowry harassment or something long back, fine. But finally, after 2 years, some other issue between husband and wife, maybe there's so many issues, right? Sometimes adultery, sometimes bigamy, etc., etc. So many issues. Let it be anything, some illegal relationship or anything like that. Maybe she committed suicide also. In many cases, she commits suicide. At the outset, prima facie, when we look, we'll feel like all these belongs to dowry death. So when a person who's doing a research, it can be dowry death or it can be child labor. Morning also, I think someone, ma'am was telling about this. Child labor, when we say, define the age child. In your thesis, from which age to or until which age you are telling that it is a child. Okay, Juvenile Justice Act says this, somebody else says that, some other act says like this, everything okay, fine. But according to this thesis, this whole of data is collected based on this particular age, below 15, that's my age. After 15, I have not considered it as child in this thesis for the purpose of this thesis. Like this, for the purpose of this thesis, anything you take can be defined properly. You operationalize yourself and then you start with the research, collecting data itself, because you need not ask somebody beyond 15, correct? So you stop there with 15. So for that, we need that. So these are the steps for data collection. Now, defining the aim of the research. So already before you start the process of data collection, you need to identify exactly what you want to achieve. As I already told, there are various purposes of research. Start by writing a problem statement. What is the practical or scientific issue that you want to address, and why does it matter? Why you want to research? Why? Many times we lack in this only. This only sometimes we call as research gap and all. If you ask somebody, what is your research gap? They are not able to tell. Correctly identify and formulate one or more research questions that precisely define what you want to do. So I want to do this. That's where research questions, when you draft, it will start with the word to determine, to analyze, to find out. Like that, 5 sentences, if you put, that 5 things will be your 5 chapters, in fact. So when you're designing chapters, that's research design. When you design, you can actually design based on your research questions itself. So depending on your research questions, you might need to collect either qualitative data or quantitative data. So this place, you have to be very, very clear. 50% of your research is over only when you have why you want to do that. Now, sources, when it comes to various sources of information are there available. It can be classified into primary sources and secondary sources. I think we all know all this. What are primary sources? They contain authoritative records of law made by lawmaking bodies. These are all primary sources, like legislation, rules, regulations, orders, bylaws, authoritative decisions. Everything is falling under primary sources. At the thing, right? Secondary sources are one that refer and relate to the law while not being themselves primary sources. So the second step, that's why they are called secondary sources. For example, with one topic, somebody would have written a book. Your Bare Act is primary source, but legal commentaries are your secondary source. Abstracts, dictionaries, encyclopedia, index, or commentaries by, critical evaluation of judgments, all this fall under secondary sources. Now, qualitative data and quantitative data. Let us define that, or let us have an idea about what is qualitative data and what is quantitative data. Qualitative data means it's mostly non-numerical and usually descriptive or nominal in nature. It means the data collected are in the form of words and sentences. If you ask somebody, how do you feel? They say, I'm happy, I'm sad. I think nowadays children are very popular. If you click on to the Facebook or WhatsApp or something, feeling sad, feeling bad, I think they always write that statements, right? And unfortunately, even for that feeling sad, somebody will like also. So you're liking as they're feeling sad. You feel, why do you like that, right? So, but how many likes I got for when I wrote, I felt sad. That's the period which we are living. So all this, I felt sad, or I felt the taste, the appearance, the beauty, the smell, the texture, all these stuffs in sentences we say. Even in a questionnaire, you would find that. Some questions from the beginning, they will tell you have to tick everything. Last question, you will have to write a statement, right? Anything more to add, they would have asked. In feedback forms and all, you would notice that. Would you like to suggest something? So in that column, I think we will write something as a sentence. So these are all qualitative data, right? They are verbal and written feedback and all can be taken as an example. It's like a narrative story and all. And it can be direct experience or indirect experience also. But I heard from someone that also falls part of. So such data captures feelings, emotions, subjective perceptions of something. Examples an online review a customer writes about a product. Nowadays, everywhere they ask, right? An answer to an open-ended, a question about what type of video a customer would like to watch, right? So all this will fall under qualitative data, right? And qualitative data is usually expressed in words and analyzed through interpretations. One thing here I would like to clarify. In fact, in legal research, we find more qualitative data. How do someone write that Supreme Court is liberally interpreting? How did you find out? Right? We have to read the judgments, paragraphs of judges, how they interpreted in 80s, how they interpreted in 90s, how they are interpreting now. Then only we can come to a conclusion saying that the Supreme Court is liberally interpreting. So qualitative data helps, explains the why behind the information quantitative data reveals. So you say 10 people, now 60% of women feel, we say. How did you come to that conclusion? With the quantitative data available. Why? If you ask a question on the quantitative data which you collected, then that is called qualitative data. And quantitative data, I think it's very familiar to all of us. It's numerical in nature and can be mathematically computed, right? Examples include the number of customers who brought a given product, the rating a customer gives a product out of 5 stars, and the amount of time a visitor spent on your website. Number, 100 people came. Out of that, 50 people told like this. That's all. Your numerical data is over. And quantitative data is very essential because it uses different scales which can be classified as nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, ratio scale. You give a number, no? In many questionnaires, we will see. If it's good, give 1. Very good, give 2. Excellent, give 5. Like this, they give number, nominal data. Ordinal scale is also like that. 0 to 1, 5 to 6. Like this, you give a thing. Interval scale. So all these are methods to quantify the data, right? How you express it. Quantitative data is expressed in numbers and graphs and analyzed through statistical methods. I think for this, a better person would be statistician. There are disadvantages, but still quantitative data is many times handled very easily by a statistician rather than a legal researcher. So a legal researcher, without any hesitation, he can take the help of a good statistician to quantify your data. Now, if your aim is to test a hypothesis, measure something precisely, or gain large-scale statistical insights, collect quantitative data. If your aim is to explore ideas, understand experiences, or gain detailed insights into a specific context, collect qualitative data. Right? Even a judgment. Let us talk in legal research alone. Say a judgment by the Supreme Court, adultery judgment came, Shabarimala judgment came. What do you feel? How do women feel regarding that judgment? Because it's a judgment which said women can go to Shabarimala. So do you feel judgment has come? Will you go? These are qualitative data only can answer all this, right? So if you have several aims, suppose the same research, we have both, then I think both methods can be used. That's why I said in every research, I feel both are used. Only one chapter, we have quantitative data. But the remaining things, analyzing and writing, we use qualitative data only. Like money, time, speed, movement, height, weight, etc., etc. All these will fall under quantitative data. Now, coming to doctrinal research data collection. How to collect data in a doctrinal research. It's very compulsory for a legal researcher to know this, because only after that his empirical data will be good. Many times we miss this part. That's why the question comes, where is law in this? Okay. First thing, the domain of doctrinal research mostly contain the following technique. That is library. Our temple is library only. Any legal researcher, at the outset, your workplace is library. Maybe a temple. Legal theories principles and position of law may be easily referred by sitting in the library. You need not go anywhere. First, start with that. Even if your methodology is empirical, let us first start with the basic legal theories and principles on that topic. Say labor law. Labor means what? How it is being defined. So far, how they have defined labor, how they have distinguished it with any other things. Are they considering these people as labor? Say, take any example like that. Currently, employment is changing. The method with how employment is treated is changing. So, are they labor under this act? Which act defines? For all this, you need the basic theories and principles. That is done in the library. That is your basic data for doctrinal research. Contents of the documents are self-sufficient to be shown as good evidence of what law is on any issue of law and society. What is the law? For that, you need the documents. It can be articles, it can be commentaries, primary source as well as secondary source, but what is available in the library? The bare text, this particular section, this particular article, like this, you need the very basics of it. Okay. And library search is most convenient way of data collection. What are the sources you need to verify? Books, journals, reports, magazines, news. Comes only with a newspaper article. It's a good source. We have a lot of inhibitions. Oh, somebody reported, it may not be true. Okay, it is not true. How to say it's not true? For that, you need that paper as a source, right? In newspapers, it is reported like this, but the original source is like this. For that also, you need the report. The juristic works, reports of seminars, conferences, symposiums, legislative, judicial, and administrative proceedings. Everything. For example, many times we forget to read the Constitutional Assembly debates. We quote our Constitution articles. Anybody's thesis, there will be at least 2 articles quoted from Constitution. But have we read the Constitutional Assembly debates? What they discussed before bringing this article? The object, intent of the legislators. We don't read. That's actually a very good source of data for an doctrinal researcher, legal researcher especially. And the literature containing factual and philosophical information. Articles, research papers, theses, dissertations, reports of commissions, courts judgments, case commentaries. These are all data, our own data. Mostly this is our data, but we ignore. We don't sit in our library, we'll go somewhere. We think all other libraries have better information. Need not be. Not even Google. Please sit in the library. You get all these things, especially law commission reports. And when I say thesis and dissertations, one person's thesis would be the next person's starting point. Maybe I have done a research on reproductive rights. I would have stopped in one place because when I was doing the act, it didn't even come. It was a bill. I critically evaluated the bill and stopped there. The next person, even today, that research can be undertaken. Take the act. The act has come. It has traveled these many years and reached this position. Whether this will solve the issue. So my thesis will be the starting point for somebody else's thesis starting, right? Ending point will be the starting point. So it can be a good source, definitely, right? And today, thanks to e-libraries, there are so many materials available. Most of the law libraries have e-library facility also. So on your fingertip, you get all your research material. But the basic difficulty in this data that is available in the online searches is that we download and store, but we don't read. And then the proper analyzation of such sources not happening. This is my view, which I observed a lot. And one more method for data collection, which is actually common for doctrinal and empirical. Even in empirical, you will find this. But actually, this can be employed for doctrinal research also, which is called participation technique. Doctrinal researcher also can do participation technique because this is, even though it is common, It can be performed using either library participation or both techniques. The objective of doctrinal participative approach is to obtain knowledge by participating in any activity where the relevant information may be obtained from verbal statements and presentations made by the person credible for such information as expert, experienced, or authoritative, not from the printed or web materials. Right? Like I told you, Constitutional Assembly debates. Constitutional Assembly debates is something which already took place. The debates have taken place. They have recorded and we have as a book. Now in all libraries it is available. But what I am saying now, that participation is something. Suppose you want to observe the discussion that is taking place in a bill. You get permission, go to the assembly, sit there, observe how everybody is taking it forward. Everything may not be recorded and come to your hands. It's not in printed format, but they speak, right? How they behave there. How did they respond to that? Right? A bill on 33% reservation. If you sit in the assembly and see, you will be able to observe how women legislators are, reacting to that bill, and how men legislators are reacting to that bill. This can be got. This is a doctrinal research only. You only have to report it somewhere and make it into data. But this is also a technique which many times we feel participation is only for empirical, need not be. Even for doctrinal, it can be used. It may be obtained by participation in lectures, seminars, conferences. It can be academic, judicial. You sit in a court and see how judgments are delivered, right? How everybody respond to their judgments and etc. And some common sources of data collection. So two only for doctrinal research, data collection can be done in the library or by participation. But participation, you will find even in our own empirical also. So doctrinal researchers never have an inhibition that I am doing doctrinal, so my research is inferior to empirical. No, both are equally good. Only thing to remember, if you are doing doctrinal study, your methodology is doctrinal, then your research problem also should be that. As I already told, you can't write implementation of Dowry Prohibition Act, Child Labor Act, or Pollution, Environmental Protection Act, implementation. You take the topic like that and your methodology is doctrinal, it won't be acceptable. Otherwise, doctrinal research is also equally good for legal research. Okay. Now we move on to tools and techniques for data collection in empirical research. I think it's so common. Many of us know these methods. Hope I'm audible. I'm going along. Are you along with me? No response? Hope you are along with me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, fine. Right. So for empirical research, first thing, observation technique. It's one of the very finest method of data collection for empirical research. Second one is interview as a tool, very important tool. Very commonly we see this tool. And third one, questionnaire. I think after Corona, we find questionnaire is dominating like anything. Every other day, we will receive at least one questionnaire from somewhere asking us to fill up this form. We don't know for what, how these researches are completed and all, we don't know. But of course, when students ask, we fill and give, right? And then we have case study method, and we have survey method, and we also have scaling. I'm not saying this is hard and fast rule. Common methods: observation, interview, questionnaire, case study, survey, and scaling. These are common methods that are adopted or common tools that are taken for data collection in empirical research, both by a legal researcher and a social researcher. Anybody, you ask anybody, they will tell this. Even if you ask a sociologist, they will tell, yes, we have adopted this technique. Once upon a time, I would say some 10 to 15 years before, it was very common only among social researchers. But now It's very common among legal researchers also. Let us see one by one. Observation technique. Observation method of data collection deals with the recording of behavior of the respondents or sampling units, right? So you identify the respondents and you start observing them directly. We can read in books saying women are very fond of shopping. If you ask men, they will say like this one, right? Women are very fond of shopping. Okay. This we read somewhere. But to find out whether it is true, we have to first decide, I am going to observe this 100 women for another 10 days. How they are going for shopping. Are they really fond of shopping? Number one. What are they are shopping? Fond means of what? Yes, women go to shopping, correct. Very often they may go, but that might be for their family also, right? Everybody is using it. It is not their personal belongings alone, they go and buy it, right? So to identify that, this is only not legal example, very simple example to understand. To identify that, we need to observe the women and to identify the respondents and then observe. And the researcher has to observe the required phenomenon by himself. It is here where it's very important that you can't ask someone else to observe and you record. That would be only a second-hand information where it might not be an accurate data. I said data, when it is accurate, your results are also accurate. By involving himself into the place or where he wants to observe, the researcher will be able to keep his eye on the entire activity of the accurate data and certain direct inferences, right? So as I said, in the parliament, you go sit and observe how this bill is being received by the legislators. So you can able to see the reactions of the people only when you observe directly, right? And observation provides an opportunity for empirical study that is first-hand collection of facts, and there is scientific precision in this method as facts and related information is collected in a natural situation. Say you are somebody is studying on the tribal culture or tribal rights or tribal, I would say, the scientific, informations which they have about medicinal plants, right? In fact, they have a first-hand information. But how to find out? You have to go there, see them, how they are using it. You have to observe and find out how easily they are collecting herbs, collecting medicinal plants, identifying medicinal plants. All this will be done by observation technique. It's very, very, I would say a very good technique, but disadvantage is very difficult. Many a times, researchers, legal researchers especially, say people who are working somewhere, do research in one university. Sometimes they will be working in that university itself. Whether all our employment conditions, our leave, whether we will get opportunity, our family, all this allowing, keeping in mind all this, whether we will be able to go to a place, stay there, observe and find the data, difficulties. Only practical difficulties. Otherwise, if we are able to do that, I think it's wonderful tool to collect empirical data. Actually, in science researchers, they do this only. They have to do this, right? Medicine is into the market. You inject that, wait for the patient, wait for the results, wait for how the patient is reacting. You observe 100 patients like that, then only they research 1 year, right? So they have to wait and do this. So that period, if we get, and the facilities if we get, observation technique is one of the very finest tool which I find to collect first-hand information about anything. Now coming to kinds of observation technique. Participant observation, quasi-participant observation, and non-participant observation. Participant means here the researcher himself being actively remains associated with other members of the group and observes behavior and activities of the group of study. For example, some are there. I heard one researcher telling he was studying on the slum development. So he stayed there and found out, or they were in close relationship with the group which he wanted to study. This is participant observation. You take part everything. You live with them and then find out, right? Quasi-participant is the researcher does not remain all present to study group activities, but he has to believe on his fellow researchers of the phenomenon when he is not present. Now it is second-hand information, right? Like what he will do is, say the researcher will take part only in specific activities. Say, for example, tribal welfare, somebody, or tribal culture, if you are studying, you go only to their festivals. When a tribal festival is there, you will go there. When a sports is taking place, you will go there. When a group activity is happening, you will go there. Not every time. But participant observer will stay there itself for all the activities. Quasi-participant, you know, little halfway he will go. Non-participant is he doesn't participate in anything activities. He will be standing himself outside and observe the population or the social life of the people. He stands as a neutral person. He does not stand there. He is an outsider, but he is observing everything, what is happening there. So these are some of the kinds of observation techniques that is happening. And observation techniques, but all are equally good, which can be done. Again, practical difficulties are the issue. I think mostly we find quasi-participants. Every now and then they will go there, meet everybody, talk to them, come back, and like. Now coming to interview method. I think the most common, it's accepted technique of data collection where the researcher enters into face-to-face interaction with any person or group for the purpose of seeking certain information as to facts, idea, or observation relevant to his research. In fact, I feel before Corona period, I think before this questionnaire became this easy. Questionnaire was also difficult earlier. Now it's very easy because system will do everything. Google will do, right? Before that, interview method was one of the very common accepted technique because people feel questionnaire, if I send to someone, they may not be able to read. But in interview, I can ask the questions directly, right? The components of the interview is interviewer, interviewee, and the interview environment. This is very important, in fact. You might have seen our celebrities coming to a place. Sometimes it will be for a funeral. Unfortunately, there also people will be with the mics to them, right? I personally feel it's so irritating to see people standing with the mic, asking them, how do you feel? When we stand for a funeral, what we will feel? Why to ask? Correct? That they could have done even the next day, but they won't do. Even there, they are taking an interview only. So the interview environment is very important to collect the correct information in an interview. You sit in a place, very calm environment. The interviewer and the interviewee are sitting face to face. Very comfortably, if they answer, you will get a proper answer. But if you are in a very hurry and they are also in a very hurry, just like that, what do you feel? No? They will tell whatever they feel and they'll come back. It might not be the true, correct information what you want. And the kinds of interview, if you take types, structured interviews, semi-structured interviews, unstructured interviews. I think you all know structured. You prepare questions, you go there, properly ask those questions, come back. Semi-structured is you prepare the questions, just hints, they will answer something. From the answers, you take another question. That's semi-structured. Unstructured interviews is what I told the example now. Suddenly you go to a person, show the mic, ask, come on, tell like that. But today interview methods are also changing. In this era, we can do it personally. We can do it through telephone. We can do it through email, web pages. Like this also we are seeing interviews. So telephonic interviews, personal interviews, web interviewers, email interviews, everything we find. But slightly it will touch upon like questionnaire. Like only structured interviews can be done through email or web pages, etc. Unstructured and semi-structured interviews, if you have to do, I think you have to go in person only. But once again, Like observation, this is also one of the finest methods because you get to know the reaction of the person when you ask that question. So I think it's one of the very common method. Questioner again, I think very common. It is, there will be set of questions in a questionnaire, and on each indicator there must be questions designed, and their language in questionnaire method. What you have to keep in mind is that what is the use of questionnaire method is that when you can't go directly to a person, you send it, right? So what is the thing which you have to keep in mind is your language should be free from ambiguity. If you read the question, I must be able to answer. Nobody is there to explain that this is what I'm thinking. So it must be free from ambiguity, easy to understand, and grammatically correct. And it is very useful where observation and interview is not possible. And it is a physical document which contains predetermined questions or printed questions, typed or digitalized, distributed to various persons for their response on such questions. But the most important thing in questionnaire which you have to keep in mind is the language. If you are taking a questionnaire from a tribal population, then they must be able to read it, or there must be at least somebody to read it and tell it. So that's why mostly questionnaires now, it is advisable that if you're taking in the concerned states or concerned districts, the language which is spoken in that district, if you draft the questions in such a way, then your questionnaire method will be, this tool will be very successful because it's good also. As I told you, we don't get leave, we don't get opportunities to go to every places. Sitting in our place, we can get answers. But provided the person who is given that questionnaire must be able to understand the question. Yes. And now coming to case study. When I say case study, let us not confuse with our cases. Our means judicial cases. I'm not telling that. Correct? Case study is an in-depth study of any unit from beginning to end. For example, any person. I think for this we can take the language of doctors. For doctors, all are cases. Every patient is a case. So that language you keep in mind and follow this. Any person, family, institution, group, caste, community, or nation may be the unit for the purpose of the study. So you take a judge. Say, for example, as a legal researcher, I would like to find out the contribution of Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer in this, some labor welfare, something like that. So then what happens is, Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer is my case, which I am going to study in depth. I am not going to study his family. I am going to study the judgments given by him, right? So by this study, those qualities of the unit are focused and analyzed, which makes it distinct from other and special subject matter of the study in which the researcher is interested to know. In legal research study, say study on legal history of India, constitutional history of India, judicial contribution of any judge, academic contribution of any renowned educationist, and life of an artist, etc., may be the examples of case study method. But here again, say if we want to observe a judge, especially who is living, this is not Justice V.R. Krishna here, judicial contribution of any judge, now we have to go and watch how he is giving judgments. Again, observation will be indirectly applied, but the complete case, that judge becomes our case. We are studying in depth into his judgments, how it has contributed. Sometimes we may need to go to, say we are studying the life of an artist or something, how he has contributed as a politician. He's in Tamil Nadu, we have examples like that. MGR, we say, he was an artist, but finally his political career rose up like anything. So if we have to take that as an example, then we have to start from his artist life to politician like that. That will be our entire case. A method or tool for collecting empirical data. Another method is survey method. It's mostly used in social science and socio-legal researches. Like, actually this is done before planning any policy. Law has not come. Now the legislatures want to know, we also find that in many of our official websites, we will find the bill is coming. We want to know your opinion, right? So before implementing a policy, or any scheme, surveys are undertaken to know the experience, observation, and opinion of people relating to that subject. So it's a process of collecting quantity of facts in a systematic way, so that any social problem or status of facts in certain area of society is found out, right? How they feel, whether this law is coming up, can we bring a specific law on this subject like this? So it is deciding about the means of information. Mostly this information is obtained through schedule, questionnaire, personal interview. But the method is survey method. But the tool which we are adopting would be either question or sometimes survey itself directly taken. Before launching survey, its units must be determined. Very important. Survey is generally taken, if it is a small population, taking survey is very easy. Like only to them we can go conduct the survey from all houses and we can report it. But it must be definite, appropriate in size, so that generalized statement made on the basis of information must be coherent. Like for example, many times in empirical data, the problem is students tend to take one district, right? They will take with special reference to state of, or with special reference to the particular district, Chennai district where I'm staying. Taking only in Chennai, can we conclude for Tamil Nadu? Taking only in Tamil Nadu, can we conclude for India? This is a big issue. It's a big question. So that has to be studied separately, like what is sampling and how you decide the unit, etc. In survey method, the difficulty is we may not be able to cover the entire population from whom we want to collect the data. Otherwise, survey method is also good, because before bringing in a product, giving it to them and collecting a survey is good actually. Now scaling. What is scaling is, it means to measure something by using any unit of measurement, right? Empirical data is done like this also, and it measures social behavior and attributes of man by converting qualitative facts into quantitative facts. I told in the beginning, when I told about qualitative data, if you ask 100 people, how do you feel? They will say, I'm happy, I'm sad, I am this, I am that. No, this is not correct. I am against this law. I am okay for the law. Like this we'll get. These are all qualitative data. But to report it, we will say 50% of the population is objecting the law, right? How did we say 50%? We converted this qualitative data into quantitative facts. How we are doing that? We are doing that by scaling. In scaling, it is a method of converting series of qualitative facts into quantitative facts, and attributes are turned into variables, right? And questionnaires and schedules are used as a source of applying this method, right? Average, on an average, 20% feels like this, or average population, urban population is feeling like this. How to bring about this, that feeling, how you have to report is through scaling method only, right? So this method is adopted to convert the qualitative data into quantitative data, because finally we have to interpret and write. So these are the methods of collecting data in an empirical research. We find observation, we find questionnaire, interview, scaling. Like this, we find various methods. Again, there is no hard and fast rule. Whichever tool is convenient and whichever tool is acceptable to that particular topic, based on the topic only, this tool should be adopted. Each one is good. We can't say this is bad, this is bad. Because as I told you, suppose I am talking to a person who is not educated, illiterate population. I can't adopt question. There is no point in taking the questionnaire and going. It's better to go for interview. I'm talking to illiterate people. They don't know what is this. Then I have to explain. Something is coming like this. How do you feel? That's how I can collect data, right? So the tool to be adopted will depend upon what topic we chose. So these are all collection of data. Now coming to analysis part, I think I'll complete within 10 minutes. I hope I'm okay. Shiva ma'am? Yeah, because you have given me analysis also. Okay. The general understanding is that data analysis and processing are one and the same. In analysis, first come to the conclusion that it is not one and the same. Data processing means once the data is collected, you have to follow some steps before analysis. Okay. One thing, editing, coding, classification, tabulation. Editing, because there might be mistakes in the data. Instead of telling yes, they would have said no. Instead of ticking this column, they would have ticked something else. Name will be Suresh, but they would have put female. They would have ticked somewhere age, qualification. Like this, we would have asked many data, right? There will be mistakes in the data, in entering the data. All that have to be corrected first. That is called editing. Coding, correctly give numbers and see whether these numbers are going in a fine way. Classification, maybe you asked from different population like rural, urban, male, female, illiterate, literate, age, so that you have to classify properly. So 15 to 20 years of age, they told like these are all this data. 25 to 30 this data, 30 to 30, like this you have to classify. Then only you have to tabulate the data, right? So these steps, these are all processing, data processing. Okay. Tabulation, why we are doing is because it will give us some explanation on seeing it is. It conserves space. Instead of writing, correctly tabulate. Okay, column number 1, column number 2 says this, and like that it will go, right? And it facilitates the summation of items and the detection of errors and omissions. Only when you tabulate, you will know that you have committed so many mistakes in editing the data, right? It provides the basis for various statistical computations also. Whether to go for graph, whether to go for pi, whether to go, all this you will know only when you tabulate the data. Tabulation now can be done by hand or small data, only 10 members, na hand itself is fine. Or electronic devices, computer will do everything. But the choice depends upon the size and type of the study, cost considerations, time pressures, and the availability of tabulating machines or computers. But today, I think all students are going by computer electronically. They do this. But yes, if it is a small data, immediately I just draw the tabulation and just go off. That also can be done, right? Generally, the tables in tabulation, we have simple table or complex table. In simple table, what is happening? There is, you just draw 1, 2, 3. In left-hand column, you will be stating the attribute. Say, for example, height of a person. Age you are giving. So below 10, 11 to 20, 20 to 25, 30 to 35, this will be one column. Next column, height of the persons. Next column, percentage. That's all. Simple table. This is otherwise called as only one variable you have. You are going to tell only that. Its frequency distribution alone you have to tell. Then one single table is enough. Complex or cross table is multivariate. Age is there, or you will take the example as income is there. Male, female you have to divide. Among the male, rural, urban you have to divide. So you have so many things. Then the tabulation becomes complex or cross table, we call it. Generally, this tabulation has to be done properly. Then your analysis will be easy. For preparing the table, you should have title of the table. You should have proper subheadings and captions, size of the column, totals, demarcation of columns, and footnotes. Why I am saying footnotes is, if there is something special about the tables or figures, maybe rural you want to state from which place you took, that can be given as a footnote. Like by rural, we are meaning this, right? So then the tabulation will be a very perfect table. If anybody see or read, they will be able to understand easily. So later on, when you interpret, nobody will ask why you have said, because already we have told rural means this. According to my tabulation itself, I have said this. Now, next is understanding the data. So you have tabulated. So data analysis will depend upon the nature of the research that the researcher is undertaking. I'm again and again telling this because what topic you have taken and what you want to prove, only the researcher will know. Never compare one researcher with others. There is no competition. It is your individual topic, right? Whether qualitative or quantitative, it will depend upon what you have collected. Now, quantitative data analysis may be divided into descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. Two things are there, descriptive and inferential. Descriptive means it is largely the study of distribution of one variable. So it will provide us with the, for example, profile of companies, work groups, persons, and other subjects on any multiple characteristics such as size, composition, efficiency, preferences, how many people prefer this product, consumer choice. We need to know before studying consumer rights, what are the nature of products they purchase. If we want to know, you just collect the data and you write in a descriptive fashion. You say 50% of the women population, they purchase essential goods for the family. In the beginning, we said women are fond of shopping. You want to prove that? Okay. But when we collected only, we understood the nature of the product which the women are purchasing are more than 75% is only essential goods, that too for the family. Personal products are very less in number. We can come to a conclusion only when we collect data and we have to analyze and write that. Inferential analysis is concerned with various tests for significance for testing hypothesis in order to determine with what validity data can be said to indicate some conclusion or conclusions. Maybe you have your own hypothesis, right? And the estimation of population values. It is based on, we just say, no, we infer from the data, right? How first you describe, women are purchasing goods. This is the nature of the products which they purchased. In descriptive, you write like that. According to the tabulated data, this is the descriptive. But what you inferred from that, same in legal research also it happens. But unfortunately, in empirical research, when legal researchers are doing empirical research, what we find very often is this inference is absent. They write, these many people did this many judgments like this. That's all they have said. But finally, you have to tell there is a liberal view adopted by the judiciary in this matter. That we are not telling. That is called inference. How did we know? With the data available, with the estimation of the values, etc., we infer the data and finally we write as an analysis. So data analysis is equally important like collecting data. Unfortunately, nowadays, collecting data is happening, processing data is happening, but analysis is not happening. In the conclusion, we don't find anything. Pages and pages of graphs are there. But what is the conclusion? What did you infer from this? We don't find. That if it is there, the thesis or even your dissertation will fetch a very good mark in the it will be if we have empirical data and we write an inferential analysis. Now, when the data are collected, edited, classified, and tabulated, it is analyzed and interpreted with the various statistical techniques and tools depending upon the nature of the investigation. As I told you already, nowadays we have so many statistical packages. One example is SPSS, wherein it is a software. We need not do anything. You collect raw data, give it inside. I think it can be purchased by individuals also. But institution also nowadays purchase, I think. Individuals are also having. Or if we are not having, statisticians will be having. It's SPSS package. I think special training is needed to work on it also. There are people who give training for that also. If we, that's very simple. It's not very tough and all. Just we are feeding only raw data. All your editing, classification, tabulation, everything, it will do and give it to you. Pie diagram, chart, everything, it will give you. So that's easiest job nowadays being done. Only thing we have to purchase. Then statistics are very useful in all fields of research. One of the greatest advantage, as I told you, is when we have more data, statistics is very useful because we will not be able to manage in hand. Say we are collecting only from 10 people to tell 2 people felt like this, 3 people felt like this is easy. But we are collecting from 200 people, that's it. 2000 people, then it is even more. But actually, one small view, big numbers catch your audience attention nowadays. Everybody asks, how many people you collected? What is your sample? So when your sample becomes big, statistics is very good for drawing inferences and conclusions. It's also important, only with statistics we can say, compare 2 or more series. Say women and men. How to compare and tell rural and urban? Only when we have rural data, only when we have urban data, we can say it's better, right? Which one is better? So drawing inferences and conclusions is possible in statistics. But equally, there are disadvantages in statistics also. The limitations is that qualitative values like subjective perceptions, qualities and attributes are not considered under statistics. It only considers quantities. So it's a limitation of statistics. They say everything in number, right? So how did you feel? Or we can say so many people felt like this, but that inference has to be done by us only. It's because of this. What can law do to correct this? That all only we can do. And statistical studies and analysis group attributes rather than individual characteristics. Statistical analysis is mostly based on average, mean, median, mode, all those stuffs. And it's not exact like that of mathematics. Sometimes approximate value and all is being done. So errors are possible. So exact data and all we are not giving. And statistics help discover and analyze certain characteristics. It does not explain the true picture. So it's like judicial decisions, critically evaluating judicial decisions. These are all with statistics we can't do. I think for legal researchers, we need a little bit of qualitative data also. Then only ours will be good. But a combination of this both, I think it will be a very good work. And analysis, when a hypothesis is there, you have written a hypothesis and you're analyzing that. Then the major part of the analysis involves getting the appropriate combination of data and reading them so as to verify or falsify the hypothesis. I think we heard null hypothesis. So if you have to say null hypothesis is proved or the other alternative hypothesis is proved, you need data, right? So a hypothesis that is tested for possible rejection is called null. So null hypothesis, you say alternative is disproved, then you go to the alternative. So for all this, we need analysis, data analysis of a hypothesis. We need empirical data. Then it will give us strong, the accurate conclusions. So, but precautions in analysis and interpretation of data, what you have to take, the last what I would like to tell is, the researcher, while analyzing and interpreting the data, must have a thorough knowledge of the research from a wider perspective. You should not be biased, first thing. Like, I took hypothesis like this, so it should be proved. Don't have any inhibitions like that. But you took the hypothesis, poverty is the reason for child labor, you wanted to prove. Or educated women are not suffering from dowry harassment or something like that. You wanted to prove like that. But when you found the data, you are finding opposite. Be honest to report it, right? So you should have a wider perspective, not a very biased approach. That's very, very important. And the comprehensive knowledge, when I say, the basic data, you should be clear. Before studying something on consumer protection, you should be thorough with Consumer Protection Act. Then your approach itself will be different, right? And take into account all pertinent elements, because failure to do so will make the generalization drawn inaccurate. Or you tell in your limitation, this limitation of this thesis is only rural population. I have not analyzed anything else. Maybe there will be differences in urban. You say that honestly and leave it. Don't try to generalize. I collected from Chennai, so for the whole of Tamil Nadu, it will be correct. You can't tell like that, right? Don't come to generalization. Then The researcher must mention all the limitations. As I told you, even in sampling, bias, inadequacy, inadequate statistical analysis, anything is there as a limitation, please mention. Saying that this data is taken only from Tamil Nadu. In Kerala, it may differ. This data is taken only with 200 samples, right? If we take more, there will be differences. Statistical tool which you took, anything, please refer as limitations of the study. That will give you safety. That is a safety measure for a researcher. Nobody will ask question, why you didn't do that? This thesis, I did this much only, right? Proper evaluation of data. Suitable interpretation of data lies on proper evaluation of facts. The researcher must interpret and analyze the data thoroughly himself for better results. As I repeatedly tell, himself, not somebody else doing and we giving. So that will give a wrong result. And qualitative data analysis. So far, I was telling about quantitative data. When it comes to qualitative analysis, these are the approaches: content analysis, thematic analysis, textual analysis, and discourse analysis. Examples are given here. I think in content, for example, a market researcher can do to find out what kind of language is used in descriptions of therapeutic apps. Right? Content. He want to analyze which language, if you use in the app, how it is going. Descriptions. Thematic analysis means a psychologist can apply thematic analysis to travel blogs to explore how tourism shapes the self-identity. Right? Theme. He is identifying the theme as tourism, and with that he is proceeding. Textual analysis means a media researcher, as an example, can be taken. Example, how news coverage of celebrities has changed in the past decade. How they were reporting about celebrities in 80s, celebrities in 90s, celebrities in 2023. So textually or contextually, we say no, that one. And discourse analysis. A political scientist could use discourse analysis to study how politicians generate trust in election campaigns. What all they say and how they get people, which part of their political campaign or election campaign led to the results. This can be studied. So how communication is helping, how language is helping. This is discourse analysis. But all this is qualitative data analysis, not number. You have to go and observe and find out. Correct? And qualitative data can take the form of text, photos, videos, audio, everything. So you will be working with interview transcripts, survey responses, field notes, recordings, natural settings. As I told, tourism and all, if you take your photos, where all this fellow is going and taking photo, how many times he took selfie, with all that, your qualitative data will be revealed. Okay. And, but the usefulness of qualitative data is always, it's flexible because we can change and you can add on new ideas. But when it is quantitative, you have exactly defined your variable. You cannot move otherwise. But in qualitative, that is possible. So in a way, this is good, especially legal researchers. I think qualitative data is a bit better only. And when it comes to the disadvantages of qualitative data is sometimes the empirical data, I would say the supporters or who agree with that, they say, this is only your imagination, unreliable. You are just interpreting and telling. It is your own opinion, they say. So subjectivity of the researcher may get into, many times it get into, right? Subjectivity, because we will have our own thoughts, right? With that thought, I will approach the subject. So in qualitative data, that is considered to be one of the disadvantage, and that is why there is limited generalizability. Right? What I thought, what opinion 10 people gave, with that opinion I cannot conclude for the whole population. Right? And it is very labor intensive because you have to go directly and find out large amount of data and all. You cannot find out like that. Right? So that is the disadvantages of qualitative data analysis. And thank you. So that's, I stop it here. I think I have told a lot. I don't know how far it reached you. But I hope, thank you for your patient hearing. Any doubts, I'm happy to clarify.
Thank you, Haritha Devi, madam, for the wonderful class.
Yes.
In the participant can put their questions in the chat box. Now it's a question answer session.
Surya, there is one question.
Yes, ma'am.
The part of the participant
Ah.
that was posted earlier.
Yeah.
See,
I would like to get your honest feedback also. Ma'am, please send to me once you get.
yes, ma'am. Yes.
Ma'am, can you name the person who put the question?
Vijay Lakshmi.
Vijay Lakshmi.
I think that's only a comment. I think I am also just.
Right. Did you see?
Yes, ma'am. I think it's a camel.
It's not
ma'am.
a question. Yeah.
It's not a question, is it? Okay, it's a comment.
Somebody has asked about inferential data analysis. Say in descriptive, you only write about what is available in the data. Like 10 people answered like this, 20 people answered like this, 10 from rural answered like this. All that you describe and write, that is descriptive. But in inferential, you infer from what they told. So you say that 70% of the population are not acceptable with this law. So this law needs to be modified accordingly because they would have given their suggestions, correct? In especially in the last point, suppose a questionnaire you are distributing. In the last point, you are asking, how do you feel, what to change or any suggestions? They have given many suggestions. Suppose, say in this class itself, we'll take as an example. You are asking a feedback. In the last column, you are asking any suggestions. Many give many suggestions. They say you should bring more scholars, more what do you call speakers, or the time should be reduced. Like this, so many they will give. So from there, you can infer and write, saying, say in a FDP, more number of speakers come. That is more useful or more information we are getting in a particular class. Instead of say 2 hours, let us reduce it into 40 minutes. Next time you will decide sometimes. It's only an example, okay? Don't take it otherwise. So you infer from what people have told. That is inferential data analysis, right? Yeah. And also discourse analysis. Yes. Example I gave, no, politician. Say particular politician is your case study. Imagine. Wherever he is talking, you are going and watching him, observing him. In all his talks, you will have some common point for him to tell. So with that, you are analyzing and telling this particular discourse of that person only led to his victory. Or it can lead to disaster also. Maybe repeatedly he was telling one point that only led to his failure also, like that. So that is how, that is called discourse analysis. Qualitative data contains that, not quantitative. All this you have to go and watch. That is the difficulty in that. Somebody has asked about technology. So while framing questionnaire, I will have to ask the basic questions to general public. Will it be okay? Yes. But whenever we are moving to the public in the questionnaire, first say maybe 2 to 3 questions, we'll be asking their name, age, etc. We have to inform very specifically to them. This is only for what do you call research purposes. And you will not reveal the data to anybody, number one. Or you should give option to them of not revealing their name. You can give option that. When you don't need their name, what is your problem? Right? Male or female, that and all you can get. But if they say, I don't want to reveal my name, but I will give you information, then give them that option in the question so that you can proceed further. Academicians, students, yes, you can distinguish because you will have one variable as academicians and one variable as students. How technology is used or viewed by academicians and viewed by students is different, right? Definitely. As age goes, I think we view it differently, correct? I hope there's no other questions in the chat box. I was just seeing that. Anything else?
Shiva ma'am, can we conclude the question and answer session?
If there is, I think there is no more questions. Is it?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful class. It was interesting. I can see it in the chat box. Everyone was so happy. So
Thank you
before,
very much. I must thank for this opportunity because I could learn more. Every time I speak to someone, I sit and learn. So yes, it's an opportunity for me to learn. Thank you once again to Shiba ma'am and all the organizers. Surya ma'am, thank you. Convey my regards to your principal. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your informative session. So I think it's a very um, difficult topic. I think it's for, even though it's for the resource, this is for the researchers and as well as teachers, because for collecting data, analyzing, and always the research scholars are wandering here and there uh, for for making, the tools. We are just confusing what tool we have to take for our research area and so on. So I think um, it's a very informative session that is provided by ma'am, and thank you for your valuable time. Thank you for making this event grateful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So today we are leaving, and tomorrow we will join by 10 a.m. and the participants can leave the meeting. Thank you all participants to join us. Thank you. Thank you.